Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ecommert podcast. Today, we're here in downtown London in Soho neighborhood at the Portal headquarters, and we're with Oliver Leigh, co-founder and the commercial director of Portal. Thanks for having us on the show.
Thanks for coming, Matt. It's a pleasure to host you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Today, we're going to be talking about the session-based analytics between retail and marketplaces, how this enhanced data from consumer can benefit CPG brands and optimize their media campaigns. And we're going to look at some of the technological futures on the horizon, where do you see industry is going. So, ready to kick it off?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Perfect. I worked with you in the past. We exchanged a couple of roles and we used some of the technology you built, and we use them in Mondelez and some other CPGs in the past years. Now I know you're building something new, something interesting, but you've always been in a very cutting edge point of technology. Why don't you walk us through your personal journey? Tell us about how you've come here, what you're building at Portal today, and what's on the horizon.
Absolutely, Matt. So my career has been colorful, as you point out. I spent some time working in digital at home and then moving into sort of digital marketing as a pure element, working in multiple markets. But really, I've always had a thirst for how could things be better? How could we change things? How could we enhance things? And as you rightly said, we came into contact with each other when I was working on the cutting edge of retail media commerce for a transactional media company. And that's actually where I met my co-founder, Richard. And Richard and I were faced with the same challenge coming up from working with brands like yourselves. And that challenge was we spend increasingly larger amounts on digital marketing year over year. But the challenge is we don't understand how our customers behave once they leave the ads that we're running and the ads that we're buying. And so this challenge was seen for us across multiple different sectors, from health and beauty to consumables to the alcohol sector. And so we decided to change that. And so after working in transactional media, I spent some time working in measurement, so attribution solutions that we're trying to solve for the cookieless future. And it became apparent to us that it was time for CPG brands to have their own attribution solution and verification in that space.
Many CPG brands are overwhelmed with technologies thrown at them and the different data investment opportunities also presented at them at the retailers. But no matter how fast they're building their upskilling efforts, no matter how much they're getting familiar with technology, there's always a missing element, the accurate measurement of the media investment and the attribution on the media money at the point of sales. So analytics could be a savior, yes. I studied and worked in analytics many years, so I'm very big, passionate practitioner of this field. But I want to hear your point of view because you're bringing technology to the very fragmented part of our industry in the CPG at the intersection of commerce, media, and data. So walk us through a little bit of Portal's value proposition, how advanced analytics or session-based consumer analytics can help brands to justify and make effective measurement of the retail media investment to the table.
Absolutely. So as it stands, CPG brands rely heavily on what we would call vanity metrics, which sit very much on the platform side. So we have views, engagements, click-throughs. And really that isn't enough data to make accurate budget allocation decisions year over year, campaign over campaign, as to which actual partners, formats, media is actually driving the best outcome for both you and your retail partner in terms of a shared goal of selling more products. And so we decided to take a different view of the challenge, and that is to come at the problem from the consumer side of the interaction. And so what Portal is a transparent analytics layer that sits between the customer and the retail environment that allows the CPG brand to gather consented session-based analytics as to how their customers behave, anonymous of course, but within real time in that consumer session, so they can make informed optimization decisions as to where to invest their marketing money.
I also posted and wrote about this, bringing consumer into the retail media equation because they're also benefiting from this relationship. They're getting more personalized instances. They're getting more relevant search results.
For sure.
And at the end of the day, making the shopping journey more pleasant and repeatable, growing the cart size, growing the CLTV, etc. But can you walk us through one or two use cases, perfect examples of how advanced analytics can make brands optimize their retail media investment?
Absolutely.
Like user cases.
Yeah, absolutely. So we might have a CPG brand that's investing in Meta, Google Ads, and TikTok across a varying different type of formats. And at the moment they're investing and they don't understand what happens past the click. So you embed Portal into that situation, and you now have a clear view as to how your customers behave off of each individual activity in those platforms. And so with that data at your fingertips, you can understand, am I investing in a traffic source through TikTok or an audience in TikTok that's actually driving a very high bounce rate for me or low add to baskets? Should I take that budget and reallocate it into a audience and a format or meta that's actually driving very high session duration for me, add to carts and conversion? And it's by following that data and making those budget optimization decisions that a CPG can shift their return on investment over a 6 to 12 month period in a particular market. There's another use case that we have implemented as an advanced feature recently for some of our key CPG partners, and that is the use of conversion pixels. And so by the very nature of where our platform sits between the customer and the retail environment, we can actually observe consumer behavior in real time and fire the relevant conversion signals to pass that information back to the ad platform for enhanced optimization. So somebody comes from Meta through to a retailer site, adds their product to basket, but doesn't check out. Our platform can recognize that behavior, fire the add to basket conversion signal, and Meta now has a signal to optimize that campaign, retarget that customer.
That's really cool. And there's a great step, solving the gap in between the retailer and the brand data collaboration. Because let's remember one of the key propositions of retail media, right? We're going to get closed-loop attribution. We're going to get first-party data. We're going to get transparent and accurate measurement, reporting. And at the end, it will build a collaborative environment between retailers and brands so they can build this partnership. But I think it's not going as fast as everybody anticipated. But this kind of consumer-based analytics at the advanced layer or further advanced analytics seems like another brick on bridging the gap. Do you see this happening already, or in your current relationships, in your current engagements, do you see retailers and brands taking progressive steps in this conversation because of this advanced analytics component?
Yeah, absolutely. The data that we're providing our CPG partners is inspiring conversations with retailers around not just audiences, but also promotions. Which products are being bought with our CPG brands products to inspire promotional conversations,
Right.
discounts to inspire more sales further down the line. And it's also allowing our CPG partners to take a holistic view as to which retailers work best for particular brands for them. And really, it's in everybody's interest. The CPG understands more about who their customer is when they're driving that media, and it's all driving towards the same goal, which is to sell more products through the e-commerce funnel for everybody involved.
But there is another well existing and not treated situation in our industry, the data blanks. So much data, and there's of course big data, but there's also bad data and smart data. And the data is not always available. So you mentioned in your opening remarks, you realized there's a challenge and you wanted to tackle this challenge. So how does Portal solve this problem between the retailers and the brands in terms of bringing visibility to data to what similar to the use cases you just mentioned? What our brand teams will look like or see in their day-to-day when they're using platform like Portal?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as I mentioned, we take a different view of that challenge or a different approach to that challenge. So the technology layer that we've created is first and foremost consented by the consumer. And that's a really key part. And so essentially, if you boil down what Portal is we allow CPG brands to present their consumers with an opportunity to agree to be tracked by the advertising brand. Now, once the consumer agrees to be tracked, the analytics layer is mapped to a particular retail environment. And we can then gather anonymized events data. And that's a really key part. This is anonymous session-based data. And that anonymized data can then be used on a day-to-day basis for optimizing. And data blindness is obviously a massive part. It's something that we're very conscious of as a founding team, is to not overload our customers with data that's useless. And so collaboration is a key part of that, into understanding what data is actually useful to them. And then also building custom metrics and reports to ensure that the data that's being provided to a team day in, day out is actually usable to understand awareness metrics, or is it more consideration type metrics, or is it cold hard performance? Are we selling add to baskets and conversions across this retail, across this campaign?
So it's basically applicable to full funnel,
Correct.
and it gives you full funnel visibility with the ability to slice and dice in different segments of the journey. Then this opens a natural question. Can you give us an example of how a brand can change or reiterate, optimize their existing marketing strategy, whether throughout the year or different tentpoles, based on the advanced sessions data analytics.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you rightly said, the analytics can be applied full funnel. So we have awareness metrics. We can look at average session duration. We can look at time spent with your product pages, what percentage of your products are being added to basket versus the entire basket in the sessions that you're tracking, and of course the performance metrics of add to cart and conversions. And with that data at your fingertips, we have brands that have taken that information and applied it to their budget allocation methodologies. So removing budgets from campaigns that are not driving positive on-site behavior, such as add to baskets and conversions. So removing that budget and investing it in campaigns and activities that are driving positive outcomes for you. We've seen uplifts of 90+% in add to basket behavior and 200% increase in conversions.
That moves the needle, because most of the time one of the concerns will be, if we invest X amount of this money on this technology or test something new, is it going to make an impact? Is it going to move the needle?
Yeah.
If it's applied to a some decent sized market with decent sized brand, these metrics can definitely move the needle.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to note that that uplift is obviously just within the sessions that we're seeing. Now, if you're driving the right people to the right retail environment, there is a halo effect that's happening both in additional digital sessions as well as in the physical store as well, from driving brand awareness for that retailer and making sure customers know that your product is available and ready to be purchased.
This is really interesting. So you work on session-based data, which is not common topic. There are a lot of different techniques and theories around this, but it's not your traditional click-through metrics data, right? It's real-time and it's coming from consumer consent. Just to alone is good enough value proposition and dynamic levers. But can you explain the difference for us, and many of our own audience doesn't know the exact difference or are not familiar with the applications of session-based analytics data and why it matters, or why it's even a game changer compared to the typical click-through media?
Yeah, great question. So as you know, you and I worked in that space where perhaps clicking out to that retailer has been a challenge and a restriction for where the data stops. And so the approach that we've taken and the consented anonymized element of the data we're collecting allows us to provide full session analytics. So where customers are in the entire checkout flow, with what they land on, how they behave in that landing moment. Do they bounce? Do they spend time with the product description page? Our analytics go all the way through up until people adding products to the basket, entering the checkout and completing that checkout. And it's that powerful insight as to how customers behave in real time that allows us to provide our CPG partners with this data set, enabling them to make their optimizations off the back of that.
This brings another question, because every time we hear the phrase real time, of course, all the brand people who's holding the budget in their hand gets excited like this. How can we shift gears also real time to make our spend bring the most possible buck? So can you walk us through how this real-time analytics really allows or enables brand teams to optimize their campaigns? And if you have any examples from existing clients or suggested presented use cases, that would be also.
Sure. So
Just explain to the audience, and I'd like to get a couple of tidbits from the view.
yeah, absolutely. So the real-time data comes in two ways. So the data we collect is event-based mechanisms, and our platform works really hard in the background to deliver that data in its dashboard form in a digestible UI in real time. So you can launch a campaign on a Monday morning, log in at Monday lunchtime and see which creative, A, B, or C. Is it video? Is it static? Is it a carousel that's actually proving to be the most effective in driving add to baskets, in driving conversions for your brand? And you can then make those budget allocation decisions in that moment based on the data you've seen that morning. Now, the other real-time element of our platform is, of course, observing that customer behavior, all anonymous, in real time, firing those relevant conversion pixels and sharing that data back with the ad platforms, which is going to automatically enhance campaign performance.
Now I have a couple of sparking bits in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Because if we get this analytics capability with that speed and with that anonymity, also granularity in its nice balance, we're running those campaigns in relatively smaller budgets compared to the big elephants in the room. How does it look like if we can bring this audience insight and real-time behavior data to our largest campaigns at Meta, Google, TikTok? How can we scale it proportionally and make a big impact on the other social digital mediums?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always going to be that manual budget allocation that goes on, but really the powerhouse is that automated piece that sits in the background. And by now, actually, all of our clients do this as best practice, is to implement those conversion pixels from the platforms. And what that's doing is it's really lifting the lid. So as it stands, for a CPG brand that's not engaged with Portal, their ad platforms run algorithms, and those algorithms are starving because they haven't got any data feedback as to what customers are doing on those retail websites. And so by implementing Portal, we're able to actually share real-time data signals back with those smart platforms, those smart bidding algorithms. And what the platforms will then do is understand who is having positive sessions on those retailer sites, who to retarget, who not to retarget, and how to build lookalike audiences off the back of those platforms. And that will allow your budgets at scale within Meta, Google, and TikTok to perform at an enhanced level that's not been seen before.
Okay, that's exciting. I'd like to hear some of these conversations between the MarTech team and the brand teams. I'm sure they will be all rolling eyes and shaking some hands. Now, my tech side's asking me on the back end, let me summarize my understanding. So we're looking at consumer consent, which is a huge value proposition because we're not dependent on approval any partner or platform. And we're looking at real-time advanced session data analytics. And we're looking also shopper behavior on the portal. This gives us a lot of advantages and a lot of capabilities. But there was always one side of me asking, okay, what's more and what's more? Can you share a little bit of additional features you're thinking about, additional value proposition you're already thinking in the coming quarters? Is this going to stop here, or are there going to be more features, more capabilities in the coming quarters?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, Mer, I'm passionate about helping CPG brands and also enabling that commerce funnel, not just for the CPG brand, but for the consumer and for the retailer as well. And so for me, the next stages for Portal are to bring ad platform data into the equation. So how can we start to understand spend aligned closely with session performance? And that's something that we want to bring into one roof, so you can understand what you're spending on a particular campaign and align it to the actual session-based performance to make even more informed campaign optimization or budget optimization decisions. And aside from that, it's then starting to move into a world with, okay, well, we have this consented data set around a particular brand in a particular market. We're getting 6-month or let's say quarterly data from a retailer in terms of our sales. We can actually start to move into the world where we're using customized machine learning to look at originating data set and how that's affecting our end sales and really modeling the unknown. So that's a little tidbit of what's coming next for Portal.
Okay, you got me thinking that, and I'm going to be following up on this. And I'm coming back down to reality now from 10,000 futuristic view to the ground level and execution level. Every time back in the day when I was in the industry and evaluating MarTech products for CPG brands that I worked at, one of the first questions we always ask, okay, this statistic is great, this data is wonderful, and we definitely can use those use cases, but am I going to be able to see how I stack against my competitor? Am I going to be able to have a holistic view of my category? Because that's one of the benchmarks we look at first and foremost before we make any big investment in technology. How do you see this kind of advanced session data analytics come into play? Is Portal going to give me an advanced view of my category or my competitors?
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. So where possible, we absolutely provide benchmarks of performance, whether that's across bounce rate, average session duration, whether it's particular channels and how they should be performing in terms of your add to cart. But of course, that's not to take away from the fact that any campaign or project that we engage in with clients comes with a customer success resource to ensure that the data is usable, it's ingestible, and you can make sense of what you should be doing with that information and optimization.
That's cool. That's very encouraging. And I will see again, we're building a report. We're building an e-commerce navigator report. We give performance benchmarks and some trend analytics. And the more category related data we can gather, the more insight we can generate. I like to see the reporting and see what other brands are using. Obviously, consent is the key element of this session-based advanced data analytics. But in reality, how many people really give their consent in any given time period? Could you give us a little bit of example to understand and put it in context?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. And it's a question we get asked by many of our CPG clients during the education phase of starting to partner with Portal. We ask ourselves the same question when we were building the platform, which is, will people actually consent to being tracked by another party? And we think a shift is going on at the moment. I know in my own personal experiences online, cookie consent has been around for many, many years now. And I truly believe that by giving consent to every cookie banner that I engage with, I have a hope that advertising platforms will start to show me relevant content that I'm actually interested in.
My experience will get better.
Exactly that, exactly that. So we've actually noticed a very similar trend within Portal. Now, it's important to note we do not use cookies to track our customers or our brand's customers. It's a one-to-one event-based mechanism, but the method of gathering that consent very much looks like a cookie consent banner based on the GDPR compliance and guidelines. But we've actually experienced that with our brands that have picked up the Portal platform and scaled it, that our average consent rate is 85% and above, which is remarkable.
This is huge.
Which means that if you're investing at scale in channels like Google and Meta, you're going to have thousands of sessions to make optimization decisions on, which means you have a robust data set to move that budget around with confidence and ensure that you're targeting the right audiences based on the data you're seeing at the platform.
So with this size of data and with this number of instances, you're going to be able to have providing more granularity and also scalability
Exactly.
instead of small data sets.
So we're not looking at 1 or 2 sessions per campaign. We're looking at hundreds, thousands of sessions being monitored against a particular discipline within a particular channel. So
amazing. And it's also interesting to see the consumer reaction when they meet these type of questions in the right moment, in the right context. Maybe they're more willing to give this consent to improve their experience rather than being threatened or being suspicious about the content.
Absolutely. And I think that's a job of both the CPG brand and Portal and the retailer in the future, is to incentivize that customer for the data's value exchange. They're giving us data, what's in it for them. And of course, at the very base level, there's that customized experience. Show me products that I'm interested in, show me ads I'm interested in, and don't show me stuff I'm not interested in. But it goes one step further, which is, as a long-time customer and engager with Portal, what's the additional value? Is it promotions, discounts, and so on and so forth? And that's very much
my time. Help me spend my money wisely and enjoy my shopping experience.
exactly that.
Now, I'm coming back to money question because I'm a budget guy at some point, and we've been in those roles. All of us had to spend some budget we have towards the end of the year, and sometimes those investments were completely blind. We just wanted to spend the money on some media campaign just to keep our relationship with a retailer, or we were testing a new technology. So we called it blind investments. We made those. Everybody in CPG world touching on a budget, been there at some point and some time in the journey. How do you see an advanced session-based analytics tool like Portal can help brands and media teams to reduce waste spend and avoid blind investments like we've done in the past at some point, or I'm sure it's still happening today?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Matt. Really, it's about continuing to innovate and not restricting that innovation, but using a set of tools to understand what does the success actually look like, rather than relying on, perhaps, as we discussed before, only having access to vanity metrics or waiting 6 months for a retailer to share some products and sales data with you. And we think with Portal at a brand's fingertips, they have the power to really test and learn and actually understand if strategy A or vendor A is performing better than vendor B. Right. What should we then double down on and invest in for the longer term? And it's with that analytics view that you can make those bigger decisions into what to scale.
Do you already have this kind of conversations happening around with your existing clients and prioritization or deprioritization of some of the former vendor relationships?
Yeah, we absolutely work with our partners on those types of projects and tasks. And just in the last couple of months, we worked with a partner in the programmatic space that's looking to test out different types of quality of media, whether scale and volume is better than precision and quality. We were able to assist them in understanding which strategy is best for them to invest in longer term. And it's our platform that's been the center of enabling that visibility on what's working best for them. And of course, not to forget that what's working best for the CPG brand is also working best for the retailer on the back end.
That's the key point, because they become dependent to each other more and more. The supplier and retailer relationship has been turned into a different stage now with tech partnership, data partnership, and CPG has become a customer of the retailer while they're the supplier, and data becoming the fuel in exchange. But analytics is a fascinating space. I mean, I've started studying and working on analytics 7 years ago, and I still see it's in its nascency, and it keeps growing and accelerating. Where do you see the overall trends? Let's go about, again, 30,000 feet view, and let's leave session-based advanced analytics on the zoom out a little bit. Let's look at the horizon. Where do you see analytics space going with the upcoming trends? And do you see walled gardens are growing even taller, or do you see democratization of data and growing collaborations? What's your take?
It's a really good question. I think and you and I have talked about this in the past, I don't see the retail media space going in the same way that we've seen social platforms going.
Right.
I think the walls will come down, if you will. And I see a trend being that CPGs are calling for standardized media measurement across different platforms to understand efficacy from apples to apples comparison. And I think that's a really key part of where I see the trend going, in the sense that there needs to be transparency across your different media types so you can make those informed decisions as to what actually works for you and what isn't working for your media budget and your media plan. But what comes hand in hand with that is partnerships with the retailer. So in my view, from working in measurement is a suite of tools. And what Portal is offering CPGs is a piece of the puzzle. And where we see opportunities to work with retail is to actually provide a larger piece of that picture. So providing longer attribution windows and actually providing longer optimization opportunities with our CPG partners as well. And that's something that we welcome with our retail partners, is to have that conversation, open dialogue, and work towards that end goal.
If you put on a proportion, how much of your conversation is happening with the retailers and how much of your conversation is happening with CPG?
At the moment, 75% of our conversation is happening with CPG. We're early stages of starting the conversations with retailers and how we can enhance not only their offering back to their CPG partners in terms of analytics, but also how we can assist them in some measurement verification tools for their own retail media, both on-site and off-site.
So for CPG brands looking to enhance their e-commerce strategy and empower their teams,
Sure.
what's your recommendations for the CPG teams to deploy, to learn, and to invest in?
Sure. I mean, in the center of growing your retail media strategy, it has to be test and learn, and innovation is a key part of that. But I also think the foremost is understanding what works and what doesn't work is such a key part of that, whether that's coming from your retailer through partnership with shared analytics. You have to take a view as a CPG brand as to whether you're okay with different media measurement coming from partner A versus partner B versus partner C, or you want to take matters into your own hands and actually understand your own media that you're buying through a retailer, or whether it's you're buying a retailer's data segments. What is your measurement of success? So my suggestion to a CPG that wants to help learn and grow in that space is you've got to test. You've got to test and you've got to innovate. And where things are working, you need to partner, you need to double down, and you need to scale it.
So Oliver, for a CPG brand who is into technology and who is still looking for enhance their tech stack and digital capabilities, what do you suggest? What do you recommend them to enhance their e-commerce strategy? What is your biggest piece of advice?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So I believe that e-commerce strategy obviously is a full funnel approach. We talk to lots of CPGs that run a lot of awareness, consideration, and performance has elements that sit with the retailer, elements they control themselves. And really, if you want to drive uplift in performance, you need to have full funnel analytics. So you need to be understanding how your awareness activity is performing versus channel over channel, creative over creative. And the same can be applied to consideration and performance parts of the funnel as well. And with that data at your fingertips, understanding the full customer journey, you can make optimization decisions for greater output for yourself as a brand and your retail partners. And of course, in the background, you can start to access tools and technology that can optimize your activity automatically while you sleep.
Exactly. No, that's cool. And I always a fan of CPG brands embracing new approaches, bringing new technologies, upskilling the teams. And we all need more different tools, bringing different approaches, different layer of data and capabilities to allow us to grow in that direction. Now, this has been a very insightful conversation. I learned a couple of really interesting points, and I'm going to keep looking at the horizon for some use cases being published. And I want to, of course, get my hands on the technology if there's any chance to see a demo.
Absolutely.
As we approach to the end of our conversation, what are your closing remarks, recommendations, and future predictions about the industry we're living on?
Sure. So it will be very much focused on the CPG brands, and for too long now, been investing in digital channels and not receiving enough data for the amount of investment you've been giving and the traffic you've been driving to retailers. And it's time to really understand which traffic sources work for you throughout that customer journey, throughout the marketing funnel, and to have that data at your fingertips to make optimization decisions, because better quality traffic to your retail partners is going to be beneficial to you as a CPG brand, but also your retail partners. And it goes further than that. Is to not be afraid to bring more enhanced data resources into your arsenal within your brand teams, your marketing teams, and even your trade teams. And with this data at your fingertips, you can have much more equalized JVP conversations with your retailers and start to own some of this consumer data that's been consented and really start to empower the entire marketing funnel.
And from my personal view, I also believe once retailers and marketplaces partner realize that this kind of advanced and consumer consented data could elevate the media investment and justify the increased investments, it's benefiting all players in the equation.
Absolutely.
Win-win. That was really great. Thank you very much for having us here in the magnificent office of Portal. And it's a delight to be here. That's a wrap.
Thanks for having. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for tuning into Ecommert podcast, everyone. Again, we were with Oliver Leigh, the co-founder and the commercial director of Portal Analytics here in downtown London, Soho neighborhood. It was a great conversation. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve.